Well, good evening. As I fumble with background music volume on my end. Hi! Welcome to yet another tabletop stream. I'm not going to do a very long solo intro here because I'm joined by a lovely cast this evening. Hey, if you'll want to say hello, all of you here in the call with me.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So welcome everybody to, once again, doing tabletop games on stream. Tonight we are playing a game of Trophy Dark, a tragic... how best to describe this? It's a game of psychological horror by Jesse Ross, exploring themes of tragedy, collaborative storytelling, and just generally being less interested in how to beat a scenario, and more in what's the most interesting end for your character. If we want to do some quick intros around the table, I am, as always, your host and GM, Heretic Soul. My pronouns are he, him. And we want to go down the list and introduce ourselves here tonight.
Sure. I'm Allie Puppybutt, and pronouns are she, they. I'm just a green dog on the internet looking for a time.
Hi, I'm Charlotte, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a funny purple bat.
Hi, I'm Theo. My pronouns are he, him. I'm just a dumb nerd wolf. You can find me pretty much anywhere under Theofaux. That's Theofaux.
I just noticed that my microphone was muted in OBS. That was weird. I'm sorry. I'm going to repeat myself a little bit for the people on the call. Hi, I don't know how long I was muted on the stream, but we're going to do a quick safety talk before we launch into the game here. So we are... Yes, hello. I really don't know how long I was muted in OBS.
Oh no.
Oops.
Sound went out after intros. Probably right when I swapped over then. Well, let me, also, hello, Wildly Python, hello, Signal Station. I'm not going to be super interactive with chat tonight because I'm going to be GMing. So I'm actually going to mute alerts on my end. But yeah, we actually have the author of this, this incursion in chat, Signal Station. Go check out their work.
Cool. Oh, hey, welcome.
They do very good tabletop-related stuff. So to redo the brief system introduction I did there, we're going to be playing Trophy Dark tonight. And as Trophy Dark is a horror role-playing game, I'd like to introduce a couple safety systems first. And I do like doing some of this on stream, because I think it's important to kind of show that bit behind the curtain. No, you should absolutely stick around. It is absolutely, well, it's no weirder than I'd like it to be. It's the right kind of weird.
Go in.
So I like showing some of this, like having some of the security or safety discussions visible. But that said, no one is required to like say anything out loud during safety discussion that they are uncomfortable with having out in the open in public. So the two primary safety systems we're going to be using are the X card, which is if gameplay goes in a direction that you're uncomfortable with, if something is happening in a scene that you don't like, if anything is making you uncomfortable or just making the experience unpleasant, you may play the X card, and that could be typing, I want to play the X card in chat, that could be saying out loud, hey, I want to play the X card, could be DMing me, take your pick. We're all here to have a good time, and yeah, it's going to get weird and a little scary, but, you know, no one should feel uncomfortable sitting at the table. And the other system that is a little more involved is a system called Lines and Veils. For those unfamiliar, Lines and Veils is a way of tracking stuff that we want, things that we do or don't want in the game, and the degrees to which we want to have them in the game. The character tracker that we're using does have a Lines and Veils tab. Also in our Discord call here, we have a channel specifically for Lines and Veils. Neither one of those will ever be shown on stream. But basically, a line is a line we don't want crossed in play at all. You don't want it to come up, you don't want it present in a scene, it just shouldn't be there. And it could be anything from like, my go-to is, hey, I don't want any violence of a racialized or sexualized nature in this game. I don't think that's good, I don't think we need it. It could also be something as simple as, hey, bugs freak me out, I don't want horror stuff involving bugs. And a veil is something that you're okay having in the game, but you would prefer we turn the camera away from it or throw a veil over it, so to speak. You know, if a veil is romantic encounters between characters, then if two characters really hit it off at an inn, you say, and I think maybe both our characters just go up to our room together, and we leave it at that. Or, you know, and the assassin stabs the king in the back, and it's bloody and brutal, but he dies. We're not going to go into the gory details. So, with that, I've been rambling for a little bit. Thank you for your patience, but does anyone have any questions before we talk safety and lay out Lines and Veils?
I mean, I can't think of anything on like a personal level that I'm super be against.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I got any questions, really.
Cool. Well, I'm going to start with the line that I just mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and put down as a line violence of a racialized or sexualized nature.
Yeah.
So does anyone have anything they'd like to put forward? And again, you can say it out loud if you like in the chat, or you can just type it in the channel. That will never be shown off if you would like to quietly put something down.
I feel like I'm good.
I think
I
I'm
can't-
good for now.
Anything
Alright.
else in particular?
Also worth noting that these aren't like set in stone. You don't have to come up with something right now. If something pops up halfway through the game that you're like, actually, I'm a little squicked out by that, then we can stop and make changes.
Mhm.
With that said, both for players and viewers, so again, Trophy Dark is a game of tragic horror, so content warnings for the evening are going to be death, body horror, transformation and betrayal, gun violence, cruelty to animals, fire and burning, strike breaking, and alcoholism. So any concerns from the players before we start?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
I think I'm good with that.
Cool. Well, in that case, let's meet our treasure hunters for the evening. So we are using a semi-official Trophy Dart character tracker, which I am now scrolling through to see if there's an attribution, because I forgot who made this. Character Keeper was designed by Ben Bond, right on the front page, of course.
Yeah.
Excellent. First time using it, but it seems real slick, so I'm looking forward to trying this out. So does everyone have the tracker? There should be a link to it in the Discord.
Yep.
Yeah, I was actually looking at it earlier and trying to like go through making a character sheet. Do you want me to like copy and paste what I did into like a main one, or am I just cool having it in my own copy?
If you wouldn't mind putting it in the one that I linked to directly, that's a copy I made specifically for this
Sure.
game, so we can have everyone's characters in the same spot.
Sounds delightful. Give me 1 minute.
Cool.
Dopamine.
But for everybody else, if you want to click on the Treasure Hunters tab and pick out one of the 4 slots available there to claim for a character.
Oh, did I mess that up?
Something, are you copying into slot 2? Because I see some very strange things happening in slot 2.
Yeah, I'm trying to copy into slot 2.
Might just want to try manually copying it over, transcribing it.
Right.
I now see several drop downs.
Yeah, I don't know how to undo that. Pronouns one is fine.
Let me see if I can do anything up there. I'm gonna try clearing out the name. Nope. Strange. Can you type anything in there?
It is typed in there, but then like I think. Oh. What does Excel have to be like this?
Well, on Google Sheets, you can do it.
They said it was a freak in the sheets. I didn't realize they meant it like this.
Welcome to Google Sheets live on stream. I'm gonna see if I can't wipe out some data validation. I do not know. Allie, do you maybe just want to put the put your character name after your player name?
Sure.
We will find a way around this.
I believe in this.
All right. So, most of it should be pretty self-explanatory, and the sheet does offer a bit of a walkthrough, but basic steps, go ahead and pick a name for your character, choose their pronouns. Oh, there, we got a name. We got there, in the end.
Mm-hmm.
We have...
It's not giving me the full name in
Let's
there.
see.
Choose a name and pronouns, and then choose yourself an occupation and background. Each occupation and background will give you a few skills that will help you navigate the dangers of the journey ahead. After that, pick a drive that represents why you're on this journey, what it is that has set you on the path of seeking treasure at great cost. I'll give everyone a sec to think through their characters. Like constantly glancing over at OBS now to be like, did I accidentally bump a button? Is everything good? Honestly, if that's the worst thing that happens tonight, I'll call that a success.
I hear the train coming. It's coming round.
Once you are down to rituals, you will select up to 3 rituals that your character has, or as they are referred to in this particular incursion, becoming myths, since they're of a slightly less supernatural nature. Each one you select gives you a different ability that you can apply in this incursion. However, you'll note that your character only has one stat, and that is Ruin. So while everyone is selecting options, so Ruin is your only real stat in this game. You will periodically roll against your Ruin level, but basically, Ruin is how close is your character to losing themselves to the forest. When you use a ritual, when you witness something disturbing, when you're put in a strange, essentially supernatural danger, there's a chance for your Ruin to go up. And when your Ruin reaches 6, your character is lost to the forest and out of the game. When that happens, you get the spotlight for a moment. We talk about your character's final moments and what their final moments as a part of this story look like. And you get to go out in true dramatic fashion of your choosing. So you can pick up to 3 rituals, but note that each ritual you start with increases your starting Ruin by 1. Don't worry too much, though. There are ways to reduce your Ruin eventually.
But like, why would you? It's more fun if you don't.
I will say this, the first 2 times that I played Trophy Dark, I went into like the final scene in the incursion with 5 Ruin and decided to put it all on the line both times and rolled a 6 on my Ruin roll each time. Toss myself directly onto the campfire.
Put the frying pan in the fire.
So once you have finished selecting your rituals, go ahead and check off your starting Ruin and then mark it down underneath. The tracker should helpfully tell you, it'll mark yellow any boxes that you need to check.
This is a real nice tracker.
It really is. I usually just whipped up a Yeah, I usually just whipped up a quick Google sheet. This is a great alternative. Ben is on another level when it comes to character keepers. I will have to look up other stuff they've done. So, anybody still working?
I think I'm still working a little bit.
Alright.
Try one last. I want to pick another ritual, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, done.
And yeah, as Signal Station points out, I will do a quick system intro, both for players and the audience, but for on the left side of this page, there is a mouse over reference section that will tell you every rule in the game.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
On the left side of the Treasure Hunters page, there is a reference there where it says references, player principles, risk roll, etc., etc. I'll do a quick system intro for the stream, if nothing else, but you can mouse over any of those to get info about all the rules in the game. Man, I'm glad I made tea before the stream. And hey, hope everyone... Oh, go ahead.
I was just about to say, I might make tea if we ever have a break in this.
Yeah, we will have a break at some point. And hey, everyone in chat, hope you're having a good Friday, and thank you all for tuning in.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Looks like we might be good to get started, so why don't we do some quick character intros? Let's start with, hey Charlotte, would you like to introduce us to your treasure hunter?
Okay. My character is Max Ogden. He's a drifter. That's his occupation. He is his background is that he's a disinherited wastrel, which, I'm assuming means that, you were part of some sort of, wealthier family and then you got, disowned.
Sounds about right.
And his drive is to find a town where no one knows you or what you've done and start over. And I picked one ritual for him, the White Hat.
Be perceived as the good guy.
Despite everything.
I like it. And your skills are loneliness, whistling, hiding, and indulgence. Awesome. Hey Theo, would you like to tell us a bit about your treasure hunter?
I'd love to tell you a bit about Clarence Rottenberg. He is a prospector, though he doesn't look the part. He used to be an apothecarist before he became disgraced, for a hence unknown reason. His drive is to get his sister out of Naghead's jail with a well-placed bribe. And the rituals that he has are the Roadrunner's Gift, and Hear the Train a-Comin'.
Your
Skills are appraisal, geology, determination, and medicine.
A well-rounded set of skills, if I say so myself. And lastly, Allie, would you like to tell us a bit about your treasure hunter?
Sure. So my treasure hunter name is Marie Angel Bradshaw. She's a grifter. She just goes around from town to town, getting everything she can out of everybody before she skips town. She works as a spiritual medium, sort of like a soothsayer, fortune seer. Her skills are misdirection, gambling, charm, communication. And she's out to prove to her now dead father that they raised one hell of a rattlesnake. Her rituals are Salt of the Earth and Gila Monster's Gift.
The second one especially is interesting.
I mean, I thought it looked cool, and
Very evocative one.
yeah.
So before we get started, I thought of one other thing that I wanted to actually add as a line. Not that I distrust anybody in this group. I know all of you personally, and I think you're all good people. But I'm gonna just go ahead and put out there as a line. As to put it, I guess like Native American mysticism. This is a Weird West game. Playing in space is fun, but I also want to keep like language about or weird like of the time mysticism about First Nations to a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, extremely good line to have, honestly.
Yeah, and I'm reading through the incursion. I did not see anything that I felt crossed the line there either, but you know, feel like it's good to say out loud. Well, we got ourselves quite a crew here. So, if nobody minds, I'll do a quick system intro, both as a refresher for everybody here and for the viewers. But, again, as Signal Station mentioned, you can see on the left side of the Treasure Hunters page, mouse over references for all the rules of Trophy Dark. So, in Trophy Dark, we will be going through 5 rings, which are effectively 5 acts, each one that kind of has a different focus. Playing the game is pretty simple. As I mentioned earlier, we have a dice bot in the Discord, or if you have dice at home, honestly, just you roll the dice as you see fit. You will just need 6-sided dice. It is a collaborative storytelling game about a group of treasure hunters on a doomed expedition in a hostile world. The core mechanic of Trophy Dark is the risk roll. So Trophy uses the same kind of mixed success system that, say, Blades in the Dark does. When your character encounters something risky in the world, when they perform a risky task, when there's a chance of failure with a consequence, say what you hope will happen, and say how you hope to overcome it. And ask both me and other players what could possibly go wrong. Then gather 6-sided dice for your roll. If the task is something your character would be able to do because of your skills, any of your skills, you take 1 light-colored die. You may take another light-colored die if you accept a devil's bargain from the GM or from another player. Cover in a second. Add a dark die to your roll if you are willing to risk your character's mind or body in order to succeed. Or if you are using a ritual, add a dark die. If you don't have a relevant skill, the only way you can earn dice to roll is by either accepting a devil's bargain or risking your mind or body. So then you roll the dice. Your highest die is a 1 to 3. Your character fails and things get worse. I'll describe how things get worse. If it's a 4 to 5, your character succeeds, but there is some kind of complication. So you get the outcome you hope for, but something else gets worse, or an additional obstacle moves into your way, or something changes in an unexpected way around you. On a 6, your character just succeeds. And as a note, so this is where the light and dark dice come into play. If your roll included a dark die, and the dark die is equal to or higher than your highest light die, it counts as a ruin roll. And if your value is higher than your current ruin, your ruin increases. A ruin roll is when you witness or undergo something disturbing. So if you all come across something truly upsetting on the trail, then I'll ask you to make a ruin roll, and that is just a dark die. If your roll is equal to or higher than your ruin, or sorry, not equal to, if it is higher than your ruin, add 1 to your ruin, and we'll talk about sort of how what you've witnessed or gone through changes your character. The thing I mentioned a moment ago, Devil's Bargains. A Devil's Bargain lets you add a light die to your roll. Devil's Bargain is, you can add a die to your roll, but there is a automatic complication no matter what the outcome. So common Devil's Bargains include, you cause collateral damage or unintended harm, you get lost or separated from your companions, you lose or sacrifice an important item, you attract unwanted attention, You may, during any roll, you may ask for a devil's bargain. A player may suggest one. We can do devil's bargains by committee. All of us can each suggest a different complication, and the person who's making the roll can say, I like that one, actually. Let's go with that one. Any questions so far?
No, it seems like it operates pretty similarly to the last one of these we did.
Yeah.
Just not the same.
I think I get it.
So as mentioned earlier, Ruin is one of the ways that you can lose, it's the primary way that you can lose your character in this game. When your Ruin reaches 6, your character is lost. This is an important moment. Everyone focus on your character's last flashes of lucidity before they run away or turn against their companions. At that point, you hand over your character, and they are no longer part of the adventure. But don't fear. Once your Ruin reaches 5 for the first time, you may start making reduction rolls. To reduce your Ruin, you can perform subtle acts of sabotage against your companion. Each time you do this, roll 1 light die. If you roll less than your current Ruin, you succeed at your task and decrease your Ruin by 1. Once your Ruin has reached 5 for the first time, you may make reduction rolls at any time, even if your Ruin drops below 5. The more subtle and like an accident you can make it seem like your sabotage is, the better. So as we get further into the game, you will be encouraged to kind of take a stab at your fellow treasure hunters in the hopes of making sure you're the one that gets out of this alive. So, that's the basic system. Questions? Comments? Anyone need anything before we get started on the adventure?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
I think I'm ready.
Alright. So, real quickly, as we go through the 5 rings of this incursion, there will be strange moments that occur, and as your Ruin creeps upward, you will all gain conditions as well, which will be, well, the journey itself changes you in subtle ways. And in each ring, you will face terrors and temptations. How you escape one and whether or not you give in to the other is up to you. So, everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Ready.
Well then. In recent weeks, belts have been tightened and meals skipped, with good paid work as rare as hen's teeth. You're part of a motley crew, short of cash and in town looking for opportunity, when the sheriff hammers a dead or alive poster up outside their office for one Henry Bantam. An etched likeness sneers at you from the poster, which says the outlaw Henry Bantam is worth a small fortune, dead or alive. Henry Bantam, bank robber, noose dodger. They say Bantam was shot dead outside Elksville and a lightning strike knocked him right back to his feet alive again. They say Bantam's boots melted and the bullets ran out the holes in his chest like prairie dogs fleeing a flooded burrow. It's 'cause Bantam went down to the crossroads, they say, made a deal, gave up something awful powerful in exchange for the fastest gun, for uncanny luck, for eyes in the back of his head. They say a lot of things. You find yourself on a sun-bleached street, staring at the sneering countenance of one Henry Bantam, wanted dead or alive. Players, help me out here. One of you, give me an answer to each of these questions. What sort of eyes does Bantam have?
Brown eyes, brown is like mud after a really heavy rainstorm.
I like it. Where does Bantam have a scar?
On the back of both hands. In the shape of circles.
Who or what caused this injury, and what furious vengeance did Bantam unleash to avenge himself? Any thoughts? Scars were your choice, Theo. You may...
They were my choice. I'm trying to think of some good names right off the bat. Let's say... No?
Oh, go ahead.
They were caused by One-Eye Larry in a bar in a bar brawl made with 2 broken glasses. Bantam had him dragged behind his horse for 10 miles.
What is the name of Bantam's gun? And what sets it apart from any other?
It's called a hot steel, and it can shoot more deadly than any gun this side of the Mississippi. With more deadly accuracy, one should say.
I like it. When Bantam robs a bank, he always leaves a sign it was him. What is it?
Like an etching of an eye.
How do mothers replicate the appearance of the sign of their misbehaving children, threatening that Bantam will carry them off and make them join his gang if they don't behave?
Can you say that question again?
How do mothers replicate the appearance of Bantam's signature sign to their misbehaving children, threatening that Bantam will carry them off and make them join his gang if they don't behave?
Well, every time they tell the story, they just kind of take 2 fingers and open their eyes wide open.
Ooh, I like it. Henry Bantam. While you study the poster, some of the locals gather behind you, standing on wooden planks that cover most of the muddy street. They mutter and point at the poster, and at the guns that you're wearing. You spit at your feet and make it clear that this is a lawful town and that your type aren't welcome. And as they do, a buffalo of a person fills the doorway coming out of the sheriff's office, thumbing through a stack of cash. Another bounty hunter in the considerable flesh. Happy to oblige, they rumble over their shoulder to the sheriff, and in their grin you see a glint of gold. He has a hat made of beautiful dense fur and clothes without patches or shine from wear. Even his horse looks regal. In contrast to how you're treated, the crowd backs up as he approaches and mounts his horse, giving him space and a quiet respect. That could be you. If you strike it big. The sheriff, seeing you on the street, leans expectantly against the doorway.
Okay, so Angel walks up to him and is like, well, hey there, Sheriff. It seems like you got yourselves a bandit problem in this here town.
Yep, the sheriff says. You hear about the bounty?
Oh, well, you know, a girl doesn't like to get too direct about these things, but I suppose you could put it that way.
Hmm. Living or dead don't matter, as long as you bring him back. The bounty's only for Bantam, mind. His gang ain't worth nothing.
Of course.
You up for it?
No, Sheriff, I think I just might be.
Yeah. He's just one man, after all.
Hmm. If you say so.
How much is this bounty again?
I'm not gonna say an exact amount, but enough zeros on the end that you know you could live comfortably for a while on that alone. It's good money, even split into shares. More than you can make in town without robbing a bank yourself. Enough to solve most of your problems.
Was this you saying this, or is the sheriff saying this?
That's me.
Okay. Gotcha.
Sheriff draws you up a map of the Southlands, up to the mountain range the locals call the Horns. At the base of the mountains is the El Dorado Pit, an abandoned mining camp. The surrounding area is riddled with dig sites, any of which could serve as a suitable bandit hideout. The sheriff taps on the map and says that that's where Bantam and his gang are likely to have fled. It's days away, but it's a direction to ride, and the only lead you got. There's a town along the way called Resurrection where you might stop for rest and supplies.
Well, then we best get going.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I'm right there with you.
Wouldn't want to keep him waiting for us.
Sheriff wishes you luck, and as you go to mount up, one of the younger men with more fire than sense standing around on the street sends a lazy kick in your direction to set you on the road that much faster. Which one of you does he kick? And do you react?
I feel like it would absolutely be Clarence. I think that Clarence's reaction is to look back at him and just casually adjust his necktie and keep going. Same stride as he had before. Trying not to show off any sort of tilting. And utterly failing.
Well, with that, you set out on the road. Reckon whatever you were before, you're a bounty hunter now.
Mm-hmm.
We go.
Just like-
Good.
Oh. I lost my train of thought. Please continue.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're all good.
We go now into Ring 2. You ride out of town, but you don't make it far before you reach your first landmark. At the crossroads outside of town stands a great tree, the tallest thing on the open plain for miles. The tree's white bark stands in contrast to the charred, jagged patterns left by lightning strikes and tongues of fire. From a low branch, a woman's body dangles, a rope around your neck. Why was she hung out here instead of in town?
They thought she was doing something more than just, ordinary crime. Something weird. Something something really evil, you know?
And if I'm being honest, nobody in that town really seemed to be that trusting anyway.
What stories have you heard about these crossroads and those who die out here?
Mm.
Some say that these are cursed places. People that die out here, their spirits wander forever, never going to heaven or hell.
There are buzzards in the high branches of the blackened tree, but they haven't touched her. Like you, they watch her turn in the wind. The base of the tree rests someone's family Bible, propped up. How do y'all react?
I'm gonna go over and take a look at that Bible.
You do that first, actually.
Max, you pick up the Bible and open it up, turn to the first page, and you find your own family name in the genealogical record, handwritten inside the Bible's cover. Give me a ruin roll, if you please.
Boy. Alright. So if this is higher than my ruin, then something happens, right?
Correct. If it is higher than your ruin increases by 1.
It's a 5. That is higher than my ruin.
Alright. Welcome to 3 ruin.
We're all at 3 ruin. We did it.
We did it.
We got there.
Ruin solidarity.
Ta-da. Well, any additional thoughts on the tree before moving along the road?
I would like to inspect the body. Perhaps there's a reason why the buzzards haven't touched it.
Well, as observed, no animal has touched it. In fact, it's hard to discern how long ago she was hung from the tree. The usual signs of decay one would expect after a few days left in the wild are not present. But otherwise, nothing in pockets, nothing unusual about her person that you can see. Other than her eyes are still open and have gone a sort of milky white.
Remind me again, do we have any indication of how she died?
Other than hung by the neck until she died? No. But
Yeah,
safe assumption.
safe assumption.
Yeah.
So if it ain't the neck snapping, it's the asphyxiation.
I'm not particularly feeling like performing an autopsy today.
Can't blame you there. What the hell?
Everything good?
Yeah.
Such mysterious.
Alrighty. You head down the road. The lightning-struck tree was an omen, and as with many omens, it was only obvious in hindsight. You ride along an arroyo that forms a natural road through the valley into a series of high-walled, narrow gulches where the horses are forced into single file. Overhead, the narrow stretch of sky visible between the gulch's peaks, thunderheads roll in and cover the sun. The temperature drops, and before you can make it out of the gully, the storm hits. Steep walls to the left and right stream with sheets of water as rain blows sideways. The gulch's floor becomes a river, dangerously strong. Your horses are struggling for footing in the narrow gulch. Whose horse is in the lead, and how do you all react?
My horse is in the lead, and I struggle to try and keep a hold of it. Sort of pulling in directions where I think the water seems less shallow, but as the storm goes on, the spots become fewer and far between until it's all just a torrent of raging dark water.
Do you try to stay on your horse and guide it through the torrent, or do you...
I stay on as long
Take-
as I can. I don't particularly care to walk if I don't have to, but after a while, it becomes plain that either I get off this horse or I don't make it forward at all.
Well, let's find out which. Would you give me a risk roll, please?
Okay, is that just a d6?
So, that is going to be... It is a light-colored die if the task is something your character would be able to do because of your skills. You can take a light die and accept a devil's bargain. You can add a dark die if you are willing to risk your character's mind or body in order to succeed.
I don't think it's something that should be particularly good at. It just sort of forced into the situation, and that sounds like a dark die kind of thing.
All right.
So it's just, and I don't... I'm just out of curiosity, so what would the devil's bargain be in this situation?
So I actually have a devil's bargain to offer, and that is that your light... You can add a light die to your roll, but the part of the devil's bargain is, regardless of what happens to your horse, in the struggle to keep atop your horse and guide it through the current, you lose something important that would have helped you further down the line. Physical thing, not a ability or anything, but at some point you'll wish you had something that you lost.
You know what? I'm gonna take it.
All right.
I'm gonna do 2d6 then.
Yes, make a note of which one is your light die and which one is your dark die, unless
Okay,
anyone
first
knows.
one-
Oh, go ahead.
First one's gonna be light, second one's gonna be dark. Unless anyone has everyone has to like be okay with the deals with the devil, right?
Only
Or is that
you.
something else?
Only
Oh,
you have to accept the devil's bargain, but anybody can suggest the devil's bargain.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So yeah, first die is light, second die is dark.
Let's go.
Rolling in Discord. Okay.
Looks
Looks
like
like we got a 6 and a 4.
that first one was your light die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means you just straight up succeed because your light die was your highest roll and it was a 6.
Nice.
So it is a struggle, but you guide your horse through the torrent until you find drier ground.
Hell yeah.
Clarence and Max, how do you get out of this dangerous ravine?
I think that for Clarence, it's also a matter of just sticking to his horse. But he probably has significantly more with him: prospecting gear, extra pair of clothes, stuff like that. So he is going to be clinging to that he is strapped well to his horse and is using his determination. If you have any sort of devil's bargain to offer, I'd be willing to hear it. But I think I might just roll this.
Let's see. I think the devil's bargain that I can offer you is that you can add a light die to your roll, and you can escape the ravine with your gear, but in doing so, you'll lose your horse and it'll be swept away. Unless anybody else has a suggestion.
Can't think of any for this particular incursion.
I might just stick with the one light die then, because I feel like being one horse down might be a bit of an issue. Too much.
Would that be a dark die for putting your life on the line, or a light die for a skill?
A light die for skill.
Ah, remind me, which one were you using?
Termination.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, let's roll. Haha! Great, a 1.
That is a 1. Well, I think your horse stumbles and falls, and with it, much of your prospecting gear. How do you attempt, as your horse and your gear start to be swept away by the current? How do you attempt to recover from this?
I tried to cut my pack off the horse.
Well, I think you succeed, but you are now down 1 horse.
All right.
Max, how do you navigate the raging waters? Hey Charlotte, do we have you here?
Oh dear.
Uh,
Oh hey.
Hello.
Max. Uh,
Actually, I have a question for, while you're thinking, Max. I have a question for Clarence. Do you try to ford your way through the river or through the ravine on foot, or do you try to scramble up the side instead? Up to drier land?
I think I try to scramble up the side. I think of Clarence as being kind of like a book smart guy. He's very much an academic, and it's very apparent to everybody out here who is looking to pick on somebody like him. But what he does know is a bit of medicine and a bit of geology. So he can figure out his way up a ravine by navigating around rocks that aren't going to be as slippery, that are going to be a bit more not funneling water in them.
That is a very applicable skill, and you do make your way up the side of the ravine, pack in hand. And as you make it to the top, you make it to flatter, drier land, only to see lightning skip across the plain, thunder exploding like a cannon shot, and closer than you'd like, a tangle of struck cactus briefly catches on fire in spite of the rain. When was the last time you felt this terror, this far from home? I wondered how long it would take your friends and family to realize you were gone if you were lost in the wild.
I think it was when he first came out west. Because he's originally from back east. He has never experienced an earthquake before. He was out moving a bunch of stuff off a train, and suddenly there was a giant earthquake. And it just devastated the track. The train almost fell on him, one of the cars. He's terrified for his life. A couple people did die, get crushed by the car.
Sounds like it was a upsetting event.
Memorable. Hard being alone. Time like that.
So Max, do you try to ford the waters on your horse, or do you seek drier ground yourself?
What was that one more time?
Do you try to ford the raging waters on your horse, or do you seek drier ground yourself? By yourself.
I'm gonna try and ford the waters on my horse, I think.
All right. That would be a risk roll, if you please. So, do you have any skills you feel would be appropriate here?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. The only skill that like I could maybe make a point of it was like loneliness, but even then that doesn't feel like it's right because I was just like, oh well, maybe I can do loneliness just because I'm the last one in the line, kinda.
Yeah, you know what? I like that.
All right.
I like that. Let's take that. So that's one light die for your skill. You could take a devil's bargain for an additional light die, and you could take a dark die just for putting your life on the line.
Yeah, I'll take the dark die too.
All right. So one light die and one dark die.
All right. Got a 6 on the light die.
Nice. Well,
Alright.
suppose then, driven on by sheer raw power of determination at realizing that you're kind of the last one left in the ravine, you power through it.
Mm-hmm. Pushing through on my own.
After the storm is spent, covered in mud and exhausted and reunited in the dark, you come to the outskirts of a small town called Resurrection, the one that the sheriff indicated on your map. The road into town passes a cemetery, where you see a young-looking gravedigger pulling bodies off of a cart into coffins waiting at the bottom of newly dug graves. As you pass by, he looks up, dropping a body heavily into a grave as it strikes the wooden box below with a thud. Gives you an up and down and says, "I suppose you must be here looking for Bantam."
You suppose correctly, sir.
You haven't happened to seen any sign of him in these parts, have you?
The gravedigger moseys back over to the wagon and pulls a fresh body off, says, "Well, matter of fact, you're looking at members of Bantam's gang right here." Passed through this way not that long ago, just a few days.
What happened to them?
Well, they rolled through town to rob the bank and, well, kind of shrugs the body. Dark marks on its shirt wear, on the shirt where they caught a few bullets in the process. Wasn't just Bantam's people caught bullets. Resurrection lost its sheriff. Sad, but there was profit in it. Gravedigger reaches into a pocket and pulls out their hand, jingles a handful of gold teeth in his palm. And around his wrist you see a fine gold and ivory rosary. Bantam can come back though whenever he likes, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I suppose the men like Bantam around, you'll always have a job, won't you?
You could say so. Name's Belly, by the way.
I'm gonna find a meet you, Belly. You can call me Angel.
Max.
Nice to make your acquaintance, Belly. Sorry that we are going after one of your best customers.
Belly drops the second body into another grave, and reaches into a shirt pocket and pulls out a fan of crisp dollar bills, entirely too much money, and says, "Matter of fact, if you'd be willing to help me put a few bodies in the ground, I can make it worth your while."
Well, I'm using not much one for hard labor. Can't say no to the right price. Daddy didn't raise no fool.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to help you out.
Oh,
Better in the ground than out here.
that's mighty fine of y'all. I'll even throw a ride into town in.
Oh,
That would
bless
be
your
much
heart.
appreciated.
All right. So, does anybody offer to help with digging or with handling the bodies themselves?
After with handling the bodies, I don't want to get dirt on my hands, but some reason Angel's fine with touching dirty bodies. It's just weird like that.
Sure.
I'll help with the digging.
I can do a bit of both. I'm very used to digging and dead bodies.
Well, Clarence and Marie, if you don't mind, would you each give me a ruin roll for handling the dead members of Bantam's gang? Actually, probably Marie. Clarence, you're if you have a medical background, this is probably not that unusual to you.
So 1d6.
1d6. Single dark die.
It's a 5.
It is a 5, which is higher than your ruin, so your ruin goes up 1.
Oh boy.
Getting up there.
Yeah, sure is.
I feel like I should still roll one actually,
You
because
are.
I might be used to doing autopsies and such for like medical school, but I haven't necessarily seen somebody that's gotten shot to death recently.
There. Well, you are more than welcome to take a voluntary ruin roll.
And like, you know, I feel like what's strong about these games is like you don't want to go things go south too fast, but I am here to see things go south.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. 1 dark die then, if you please.
6.
A 1. In this case, that's a good thing. Your ruin does not increase.
Nice.
Phew.
Now, do we get a description of the kind of bodies, like what the men look like or anything?
Well, as a matter of fact, let me go back to the book here. They come from all walks, but one of the dead is familiar to one of you. Which one of you recognizes a slim figure with a felt hat festooned with crow feathers?
Ooh, I got this. Okay. So, it's 2 summers after my father died. I found myself on a steamboat crossing the Mississippi, heading out west. I've been living on the end of the frontier all my life, with nothing to tie me back anymore. Decided to make my ways. And because this wasn't necessarily the most to fit the cheapest ferry across, mind you. It took a sweet time getting over there. There was all sorts of fancy folk and swimming England. I met a nice young man. And it was probably the most beautiful nights of my life. Sitting on the side of the river of the Mississippi, looking at the moon, reflecting on the water. And he said he was going to take me out west and make an honest woman out of me. We're going to settle down, make our little homestead. And then by the time I woke up the next morning, all my family jewelry was gone. I had no money in my name. But what I really stolen was my heart.
Oh.
And I never saw him again until today.
When he spoke with
Son of a bitch.
you, motherfucker. Are you sad to recognize him among the dead, or do you figure he caught what was coming?
It's a bittersweet thing because I never really let go. She always, a little part of her hoped that that he'd come back one day, but another more pragmatic part knew that was the first time she'd ever got scammed, and that's what got her into the game, really. It's just like, if all's fair and love and war, then I'll just be living a life of only love and war. Be fair nonetheless.
When you knew Crowfeather, what force did they say was looking out for them? Was gonna protect them?
He always thought he had luck on his side. Always playing the tables. He was particularly fond of blackjack. And I always thought he would, but thinking back on it, like 9 times out of 10, he'd just go over. Too confident in himself.
Well, I guess we see where that confidence got him.
Yep, 6 feet under. Or, maybe not so under if he's on top of the rest of these.
Well, you help Belly with his grim task. On occasion, the touch of cold flesh and unresisting weight of the bodies as they tug free of the cart, reminding you of your own limited time on this earth. Upon completion of the task, Belly dusts his hands off, puts his hands on his hips, regards a job well done, pulls aside a long jacket to reveal a sheriff's badge, still with a few flecks of blood on one corner, pinned to his shirt, and a gun attached to a belt that's a little too big for his waist, hanging on his hip. I thank you kindly for doing your civic duty, strangers. I will give you that ride into town, though, see if we can't find you all someplace to sleep.
Thank you, sir.
Much obliged.
I'll take you up on that.
Belly allows you to ride in the freshly vacated back of his wagon and drops you off in Resurrection. Unpaid, but drier and a little more tired than you were before.
Oh, that's why he was showing the gun. Ah.
Yeah, it seems gold teeth and fresh bills weren't the only thing Belly inherited from the recently dead.
Well,
That concludes Ring 2. So we've been going for a little under 2 hours. How's everybody doing? How is everybody feeling?
feeling okay. Could probably do the bathroom break.
All right.
Good. Yeah. Short break would be all right.
All right. We want to take 5 then and pick things up again in a minute.
Sure
So,
thing.
Sure.
5 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and take 5 then. And hey, everyone tuning in. Good to see you all here. And hey, Lola, thanks for the raid earlier. We're going to take 5 and we'll be back with more Trophy Dark in just a few minutes. And we are back.
Hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hope everybody had a good break, had a good stretch, got some water, or beverage of your choice. I think we are ready to continue the adventure of Marie, Clarence, and Max in pursuit of the notorious outlaw Henry Bantam.
Mm-hmm.
Well then, let's continue with Ring 3. As it so happens, a natural resting point in your voyage. You set your things in the library where Sheriff Belly houses his steed. It's not glamorous, but it's free. Sure, Resurrection has a flophouse, but it's no doubt full of thieves and former miners. You can't spend all night on guard to ensure no one makes off with your boots. And yes, the saloon has rooms with beds, but they are intended for hourly use only, under the supervision of professional ladies, and are therefore unsuitable for overnight lodgings. No, a good patch of hay under a sturdy roof will do you well, and you won't have to pay a dime thanks to the generosity of the sheriff. Soft golden straw and sleep can wait a little while, though. The town of Resurrection beckons.
Mm-hmm. So is the saloon and the brothel two different things?
Yes. So, who seeks the warm water and perfume of Queen Jenny's brothel? Who seeks the table and uneasy companionship of the gamblers in the saloon? And who decides to walk the quiet streets of Resurrection at night, past lantern-lit windows and the occasional sounds of singing and soft conversation?
I'd say Max probably walks the streets at night. Gotta see if maybe this is the place I've been looking for, you know?
Well, Marie is just a gambler at heart. Half the reason she's been going from town to town is as soon as she gets into town, she blows everything. And today's gonna be no different. This time is gonna be different. She's gonna get lucky and she's gonna win out. At least she thinks that. But
I think that after the day we've had, Clarence is going to need a nice, long, warm bath. Preferably with a soft touch.
Good spread of choices. Marie, let's start with you.
okay.
So, you seek the saloon and you seek the gambling tables.
Yes, sir.
Your fellow gamblers have the mien of starving coyotes as they sniff about you for a rabbit-ish nature. The wagers are more than you'd ordinarily be comfortable with, but you'll be flush soon enough with Bantam's worth. When a fellow gambler whispers to you, face in shadow with slippery features that resist memorization, how do you answer them when they ask, what would you give to carry fortune in your heart, unstealable?
Give up every part of me that could make me feel pain. Give up a part of me that make me feel love.
Fortune's a golden spinning wheel with you on top. Which of your companions would you volunteer as counterweight, strapped to Fortune's descending arc?
Probably the white hat, you know. I feel like eventually he's gonna figure out what kind of woman I am and turn on me.
This is where I apologize as a GM. Which character has a white hat?
Max Ogden has the ritual for the white hat, so it
Oh,
seems
right, of course. Sorry, I was thinking description.
yeah, no, I was being metaphorical. Haha.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Like, I
you
do
lo-
know that one's also used
Yep.
as a ritual, but it's just also assumed that it sort of works passively. Like everybody in the party just feels like Max, like, oh, you know, he's a good guy. He's an upstanding white hat cowboy.
I like it. I like that turn of phrase. Sorry for being very slow. I am not a clever man.
Oh, it's okay.
When you lose more than you have in your pockets on a coppered bet, which of your fellow travelers' belongings do you put up for stake so you can continue?
Mm. Well, I know Clarence. See, I forget. Did Clarence, when you had your misadventures in the Gulf, did you lose all of the thing, or would you still have your like apothecary kit?
I still have like prospecting gear mostly.
Crafting gear. Okay. Um. Um. Hmm.
I also have, you know, a fresh change of clothes and probably some nice things hidden in there.
Okay. Then. I guess I'll ask you, what kind of nice thing would be the worst, or like the most upsetting to give up?
It's the locket with the photo of my sister in it.
Oh yeah, we definitely bet that. Just toss them, write it down on the table.
Clarence, the mud and fatigue fall away from you under the ministrations of an expert, though you fall asleep briefly in the steaming water. In your dreams, a figure in shadow speaks, asking questions that demand a response. Which of your filthy companions wouldn't hesitate to betray you?
Damn.
Rhetorically speaking.
I mean, it's hard to point at Max. He's you know, he's the good guy. Everybody likes Max. Thing about Marie, she's got a good soul deep down there, under all the scars. She just has such a hard time coming out. She has to do a lot of things to live. One of those things might be putting a knife in my back.
When was the last time a golden pat of butter dissolved on your tongue?
It was at a luncheon with former colleagues back in Detroit. They were seeing me and my sister Iris off for our adventures in the West. Piles and piles of food. At least that's how I remember it. It's hard to think about it now. Clean clothes, good dress, good company, good wine. Hard to come along out here.
Hard indeed, but if you captured Bantam alone, your whole life would change, wouldn't it? The entire reward in your pocket. Like you was resurrection and Bantam was your own personal whistle stop. the opportunity presented itself, would you be ready?
I might be more of a stranger to a gun than these other two, but there's not much I wouldn't do to erase some of these debts.
Max. The night is warm, and you delight in taking the measure of the town, stride by stride. You briefly find yourself outside Sheriff Belly's office. A few wanted posters are nailed up. Which of your fellows do you see pictured on the posters?
I'm gonna say it's Marie, probably.
Are you surprised to see her face there?
Not particularly. A little. Not particularly.
Figure standing in shadow. A figure in shadow approaches your side, reaches over your shoulder, and drags a careful claw down the poster's illustrated cheek. It's tugged free of its nail, folded, and placed in your pocket. The figure whispers to you, "How easy would it be to add this bounty to the Bantam reward? Journey with them all the way home and put a bullet through them just outside of town before slinging them over their horse. You know the spot. Just where the golden wheat of Jessup's farm falls away on the road's last curve. Can you do it?"
Well, if nobody else saw, maybe. I mean, I've heard Bantam's good with a gun. Maybe he got her first.
Maybe. Who can say? They say a lot of things about Bantam. Max, nearby is a fire pit where a couple of vaqueros deep in their cup, where you see a couple of vaqueros deep in their cups and nodding off. A suit-wearing fellow is chatting with them. People laugh and tell stories of the unkillable Bantam. Do you approach?
May as well. See what we're up against.
Vaqueros and cowboys make space as you approach. And one of them asks you what brings you to town.
Just wandering through, seeing the sights, so to speak.
The circle nods. One of them comments, "With the iron on your hip, I figured you were in town for Bantam."
Well, he'd certainly be a sight to see, wouldn't he?
A laugh around the circle. Certainly would. Say no one can catch Henry Bantam. Cowboy sitting in shadow just outside the circle of light pulls off a leather work glove and tosses it in the dirt before adding, "Say the devil's on his side."
Devil, huh? Wouldn't really be surprised if there was at least something to that, but We'll see.
The sheriff called Bantam out and guns were drawn. How many bullets did the devil snatch out of the air to protect him?
Seven.
An auspicious number. Do any of you retire to the saloon before the end of the night, or do you each go about your chosen activities and retire to your spot in the hay?
I think I'm flat broke anyway. I can't afford nothing.
Fair enough.
I think ending a bath with a small drink is always a good idea.
Yeah, may as well check it out.
Happiness is a golden liquid in an endlessly refilled glass. Locals at the bar are full of stories and speculation. Resurrection's gonna be a boom town, you know? Train's gonna put in a station because the mine's gonna reopen. Barkeep keeps the place dim. Piano player plays a few bars to remind you that you can buy yourself a whole song if any melody grabs your fancy. As a pleasant fuzziness sets in, you realize the barkeep has been asking you questions for a while. Increasingly urgent questions like, what good is gold if it only turns into liquor and then into piss?
Ain't that the truth?
What do you need to do to ensure you're the only one who brings Bantam back? Without being entirely sure at how you wind up there, two of you find yourselves at a table, sitting across from a woman wearing a hat ringed with the rattles of snakes, her hair limp with sweat, her body struggling to heal as she explains she took a bullet to the inner thigh and can't ride. Snakebite, she says her name is. Next to her is Amos, the perennially stunned Mian of the Mule Kicked. But an amiable companion to her, fiercely loyal, decked out in a buffalo cape, a woven straw hat, and not much else. Two of them shockingly open about the fact that they are the sole survivors of Henry Bantam's gang and their attempt on the local bank.
How did you survive?
Snakebite laughs, slaps her. Snakebite laughs, sticks her leg out, and slaps her thigh before wincing and realizing that she has just made a grievous mistake. Well, once that shot passed through me, I wasn't seeing much but sky. Turns out being on your back behind a stack of barrels is a pretty safe place to be in a gunfight. Amos here wouldn't leave my side, so suppose he found himself a good bit of cover as well. You two here for that, or you just roll into town?
I glance at Max.
Here for Bantam, right?
Do you say that out loud? The two of them give a quick, curt laugh at that. Here for Bantam. Well, you missed him by a few days, but hey, good luck nevertheless. Now, see, this job was different. Amos and I, we've been with him for, what, about a year now? Been through a few jobs with him, but ever since that night, something's been different about him. Now, we didn't know what he was planning before this job. Just know that he left the camp one night, came back different, acting like he was invincible, like nothing could knock him down. Tell you, something was different about him, though. Couldn't miss a shot with his pistol even if he tried.
Hmm.
What do you think happened with him?
Well, only 3 of us what left that gunfight breathing, and only 1 of us what left town. You can fill in, you can count on your fingers and figure out the rest. As we figure, he's back at the mines. Back at a hideout we arranged there. Say, you're looking for Bantam, you're probably headed that way, right?
We might be.
Perhaps, yeah.
I don't suppose we could arrange a ride there. Amos and I, we'd like to get back to the camp, see if Henry made it back there, and collect our own effects, of course.
I won't say if no if Clarence here is okay with it.
I'll go with you on this one, Max.
It'll cost you to rent a wagon to carry all 5 of you out that way. 2 horses, 5 people. One with a rather grievous gunshot wound. Well, that simply won't do. Although, Snakebite does promise you. The mines, she says, they're going to reopen eventually. They have to. Still gold there, close to the surface. Hey, I tell you what. You take us back. You take us back to the camp. Whether Bantam's there or not, I'll give you all you can carry in exchange for a ride. You don't even have to worry about it, Henry. Put this whole business behind you. We can all go our separate ways.
There's still gold there. Why is nobody mining it?
That's a question for the ages, ain't it? Rumors that, something happened down at the mine recently.
A tunnel collapse or a flood?
Not quite. Something about a strike gone bad.
Oh,
With that much gold, that close to the surface, I tell you, it can't stay closed for long. Come on. I'll make it well worth your while. What say you?
I think we might be able to arrange something. Max?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna give us all the gold we can carry, I don't see why we can't bring you along.
Oh, that's awfully kind of you. So you got more of a backbone than all these cowards in town afraid to follow in Bantam's footsteps. You'll see.
Yes, we
I'll make it well worth your trouble. In the morning, you find a merchant willing to rent you a wagon and a horse team to carry the 2 bandits with you. Very generously on credit.
Mm-hmm.
And you set out on the road once more.
Is that what they're calling it these days? And not just the fact that these 2 came into town, guns blazing, and managed to take out the local law enforcement.
Well, does anyone have conversation for your new traveling companions or thoughts for each other as you set out on the trail once again?
So Angel wasn't there in the saloon that night, and she kind of had to be caught up on what was going on. And, you know,
Oh, yeah.
being in the profession that she is, she's wary because she realizes that, you know, she knows that both these people, they're not playing their entire hand. Now maybe the mule-stricken one might not be able to be that good of a deceiver, but that snakebite, she definitely knows what's up, and she ain't gonna let on till it's too late. Which it already may be, because I can't go this alone. Since they're already here, I might as well go along with him. She keeps this to herself, though. I'm just kind of like musing.
I think there's a moment during the wagon ride where Clarence checks his breast pocket and just
Yeah.
sits bolt upright, and for the first time in however long you've known him, he just has this fire in his eyes. There's this mixture of fear and anger.
Clarence, would you ever so kindly give me a ruin roll?
Yeah. Sorry.
As something is awakened within you?
Happily.
Three. That's not higher than your current ruin, so you're at 3 you remain.
He calms down, but his eyes are a bit more shifty than they were before.
Thus concludes Ring 3. We go now to Ring 4. The trail leads to an abandoned camp near a gold mine known as Golden Door. The ground here has seen recent darkness and acts of cruelty. Buzzards crowd the tops of trees and a slow, stinking smoke lingers. Blackened bodies can be seen where they fell, devoured first by fire and then by the desert. As the horses pass among the burnt tents, bits of fabric flutter weakly in a breeze that does nothing to clear the lung-stinging haze hovering over the camp. Let me take a look. Tell you what, everybody, upon seeing the remains of the camp, please give me a ruin roll.
Alrighty. That's a 4. My ruin is going up.
Yep, you are up to 4. So we have a 3 and a 1, so nobody else's ruin increases.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, Marie and Max, I will pose these questions to you both.
Okay.
As you pass among the tattered tents, you both experience a moment of entrancement. The miners used to dream here in the tents and work below. When they stopped and demanded more for their labor, strangers came in the night with kerosene and matches. Who gave the order to torch the camp? What did the miners dream of, deep in slumber, as they burned alive in their beds?
The order was given by, the foreman, hoping to make as much money as he can, and he knows so because there's gold in this mountain, there will always be more men cycle through, and just because these bozos are belligerent doesn't mean he needs to operate at a loss.
To whom did the miners cry out as they were met with stout clubs in the dark, wielded by masked men blocking the only way out?
Some cried out. You can go. You can take this one.
You go ahead.
Sure. Some cried out to the Lord they were raised on. Some cried out to the desert itself, and some cried out to something darker that always felt. Well, it may have been the most powerful to walk away from it. Bantam wasn't the only one to be at the crossroads on a moonless night.
And what is the name of the spirit who heard them, gathered them up, plucking their souls from the fire?
I suppose it's the same spirit that brought us all out here today, and that's the spirit of greed.
Did you know the miners are watching, even now? Can you feel them out there in the dark? There are silhouettes standing out in the shadows of the cacti, and the sound of dragging shovels rattles from somewhere nearby. A mining cart creaks, creeps its way along slowly along an inclined track as you pass by. Along the closest ridge, dark forms and lanterns, watching. Out of the darkness comes a thrown pickaxe, black as glass at a pond's bottom. Pickaxe strikes Amos, who, in spite of his size, crumples to the ground in his buffalo cape.
Killed Amos. Not my boy. Snakebite panics and is snatched up by a cackling horde trailing flames behind it. Who is seated next to her in the cart?
If Marie didn't trust somebody, would she want to be closer to them or further away from them?
Same. Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer.
Love to keep my enemies close.
Oh my god.
Stick them
Finding
right
Nemo
on
moment
me.
real.
Real clownfish hours in the chat.
Exactly. No, but yeah, I'll sit close to them in case they tried anything.
Marie, do you see what snatches Snakebite up out of the darkness?
I don't get a good look at it, but I could feel it as it goes by. And it sends a cold, sinking feeling like the bottom just dropped out in my stomach as it passes by.
The ambient smoke thickens, making it hard to breathe or see where any of this comes from. Lamps arc out of the darkness, exploding with force and heat and then vanishing, leaving burns in their wake. What do you do?
Well, we got a couple options here. We can either keep going in and try and find. Let's see if Bantam is even still here. Because we came all this way. We can't just turn back now. Or we could just turn back now.
True. But either way, he will have to navigate through the smoke and the fire. And here's the three of you attached to in a cart attached to a team of panicking horses. So, what do you do?
It might be time to abandon the cart.
Yeah. So are they like actively running and then in the car's like moving fast?
The horses are panicking, rearing, pulling at their harnesses. So yeah, the cart is about. You are in the moment where the horses are bolting, and the cart is beginning to rock
Okay.
side to side on uneven ground.
Get out of Dodge like real quick.
Hmm.
Gonna grab my pack and jump out. Do your best to hit the ground rolling.
Well, that sounds like a risk roll for everybody involved.
Oh boy.
So, does anybody have a relevant skill, or are you simply putting your life on the line?
I'm just putting my life on the line. I did not spec into this at all.
Would anybody
Yeah,
like? Okay,
I don't think I have a skill that fits this really.
it's understandable.
I don't, yeah. No, I'm not gonna do that. Okay. I think it's just putting your body on the line. Unless you have a devil's bargain.
I was just thinking about that. If you would like a devil's bargain, I think the devil's bargain I will give you is that you can take a light die, but upon hitting the ground, you'll strike your head and be rattled. Your medical knowledge will tell you that you've probably suffered a concussion. You'll be alive and cognizant, but everything will be a little fuzzy, loud, sounds a little louder and indistinct. Light's a little too bright. What say you?
I think I might take that, actually.
All right. Marie, I see that was a 6. So
You betcha.
So you tuck and roll successfully, but that is going to increase your ruin by 1.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll make my roll too.
damn. We getting up there.
Oh, I got a 1.
Oh, I got a rock.
Oh no. And Theo, you only rolled 1 die. Oh, you rolled that. Sorry, you took the devil's bargain instead of putting your life on the line. Okay,
Yeah.
no, it's fine. You do hit the ground. You are concussed as a result. But you are safe, nevertheless, of able body and mind. And I think, actually, I've been badly neglecting these. I think you gain a condition, and your condition is Quienes. as part of this, as part of both, you're not sure if it was striking your head on the rock on the ground or something else, but you suddenly find yourself face blind, a condition that gets worse at night.
Oh.
You'll need context clues to remember who your friends are, because if they change their clothes, they might become strangers. And then... So Max, you rolled a 1.
Mm-hmm. One on a dark die.
Max, it gets worse. You go to leap from the cart, but the reins of the horses catch your leg. So not only do you fail to leap from the cart, you are now attached to it as it
Oh no.
careens into the darkness.
Oh boy.
Bye.
Oops.
Max, you find yourself attached to a wagon, tearing through the fire. Clarence and Marie. You find yourself safely on the ground, but separated in the smoke. Do you find your way to each other, or try to find your way through the smoke on your own?
Trying to find this way through the smoke on my own. I figure if the others are good enough, they'll catch up with me. And if not, well... I think I can handle myself.
I think Clarence calls out a couple times, but when he hears nothing back, he starts to make his way through the smoke on his own.
Clarence, a figure lurches out of the dark. And you can't quite make out their face, only that they are accompanied by others. Mouth open in a soundless cry, reaching towards you.
Clarence brings up his gun for a moment, and then he decides, no, not right now. He starts to run away from the crowd.
Give me a risk roll to escape the burnt miners.
Now, what if I was to use the Roadrunner's gift?
That would give you a dark die for using a ritual, on top of any other dice you might have.
I could say it's determination since it's through the smoke, but that's kind of a stretch.
Good. I would give you 2 dice for that. I would encourage you to try the ritual, though, nonetheless.
I will.
Alright.
In that case, 2d6. First die is light, second die is dark.
Oh.
Both a 1.
2 on Snake Eyes.
Oof. Grim.
That's rough.
You charge through the darkness, carried by speed speed only you knew you had within you. And as you do, you're on a gauntlet of burned hands, cracked skin, reaching out to grab at you. And eventually they do catch you. Marie, Marie, you hear a cry from the darkness and turn to see. You just barely make out, backlit by the flames. A figure bearing a strong resemblance to that of Clarence. Hands wrapped around him as a circle of miners close in. You, afflicted by no such face blindness, can see the miners' faces are blackened, raw, and cracked. Their eyes are liquid pools of gold that run down their face like tears.
How
Around
many
you. Oh, go ahead.
Clarence?
Say again.
I could have mentioned him as here. They grabbed Clarence.
Several of the miners have grabbed Clarence from behind, yes. And he's struggling to get free.
And is there anything to continue?
Say again?
Is there any more to what you were describing?
Nope.
Okay. Hmm. Okay. So I can see the miners, I can see Clarence, and they're all like at the edge of this like burning smoke that there's a whole camp. Is there anything else I can see?
Nope. Clarence and the miners are backlit by flames everywhere else you look. All you can see are vague shapes closing in on you through thick smoke.
Well, since I know what's coming from you now, and I can realize, oh, maybe I can't do this one alone. Like, I take my pistol from inside my dress, and I take aim at one of the zombie miners. Hold on, Clarence. Knowing it's gonna attract attention to me, but you know, I've always been a gambler.
It's true. Well then. That'll be a risk roll.
Take a gamble, babe.
I suppose that would be... Oh, well,
That was bad game.
that was... I suppose I should have asked, so were you just intending to... You were using gamble to try to draw attention to yourself to buy Clarence time to get free?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
That sounds like
I
a
was,
cool
I knew I
speed.
wasn't expecting to like kill it, but I meant like shooting one would, if not stun one of them, or at least draw attention away.
Could also be some form of misdirection.
It's true.
That's true.
Let's see. I think the way that it gets worse is that you hit Clarence instead.
God damn!
Man, I would have taken a reduction roll if that was going to be the outcome, and just shot Clarence to start out with.
Oh shit. Well, hey, actually, I mean, hey, you're at 5 ruin. Do you want to rewind that scene and say, do you want to say, hey, do you want to make a reduction roll or
Is he
let the dice
dead,
lie?
or is he dying?
This won't kill him. This will wound him.
Okay. Well, I hit him anyway, so we're just gonna do another reduction roll this time.
Well, I asked, do you want to rewind and make a reduction roll and say you shoot Clarence intentionally? Because you'll have to roll to reduce your ruin then. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to make a ruin roll for shooting Clarence, which might put
Oh.
you up to 6.
You know what? I'm gonna make that ruin roll.
All right,
the dice,
sure.
The dice have been the dice, and we will go with it.
Let's go with it.
Oh boy.
All right.
Just imagine
Dice
if none
have
of us even make it to get this man.
This has been a lot of ones.
A lot of ones. All right, come on, big money.
Now we just
Come
need
to
another
mama.
one.
Ooh.
Ooh, 5. You do not increase.
Ooh. Okay.
Well,
Yep.
a close call. I think. Let's see. Well, Marie, how do you react to to the your failed attempt to save Clarence?
I'm frustrated at my own aim. Oh, like I'm a little miffed that I hit him because I was like, damn it, I'm gonna need him later, but like more mad at myself than anything.
Marie, under the jacket, coat, whatever your outerwear is, you feel something hard and metal brush against you as you look about you in the smoke. And when you go to touch your chest, you discover that there is a lawman's badge pinned inside your clothing. You don't remember where it came from. You vaguely remember putting it on, but all other details are lost. You do remember one thing. Prison in flames. The all too familiar smell of kerosene clinging to your hands. And suddenly you feel as if you're in a different place. Max, you got a horse problem.
I got a horse problem.
Just to
Right
say
here
you're
in River City.
right here in River City, which is to say you are now attached to two horses who are running like the devil and moments away from overturning this cart with you still attached to it.
Trying to think of a way I can do this that would actually involve my skills, but I don't know how I could do that.
I'll offer you a devil's bargain. Or, if anyone else has one, they can offer it as well. But I think I got one. I will give you a light die. But in the escape attempt, you lose your gun. You're not unarmed, but the gun that you had at your side will be lost in the smoke.
I have an alternative one, if that's okay.
Sure, let's hear it.
Okay, so you do manage to get untangled, but you, your leg is broken in the process, and your mobility is severely hindered.
Also not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. You know, could could I use my skill at whistling to try and get the horses to like calm down?
Oh,
You know what?
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro, I love
yeah,
it.
I like that.
Go for it.
Okay.
Rule of cool.
I will also take that devil's bargain from Allie though. I
Alright.
like the sound of that. So that's 2 light dice, right?
Yeah.
And just for fun, I'm putting my life on the line here too.
Okay, 2 light dice, 1 dark.
Let's see. 1 light die. That is 4. That's a 6. And I got a 3 on the dark die. But I got a 6 on the light.
You succeed, then. Per the devil's bargain, your leg is still broken, wrapped up in the reins, but you get the horses to calm down before they overturn the cart. So you're able to get enough time to get yourself free. However, you find yourself separated from your companions.
Not what you want.
Could be worse, I suppose.
Could be a lot better too.
And now you too are faced with the threat of the encroaching circle of miners in the darkness.
These damn kids. I mean, what? It was a terrible pun. I apologize.
That took me a second.
It's the last night I go out on Fright Night.
Hey.
So I'm dealing with these encroaching burnt miners as well. I am gonna try and hide from them, which is another one of my skills.
Ooh.
Okay. Go ahead and give me a risk roll for that.
What would a devil's bargain be for this?
That's a good question.
Can I offer something for myself, or
You know what? Sure. Yeah.
I just had an idea of like me hiding, like knowing that because they're not coming for me because they like lost track of me, they're gonna go find someone else, kind of thing.
So
Well,
by
I guess that's
hiding, well, no,
I don't know. I don't know.
I would frame that as you take a extra light die to try and hide, but in doing so, you do so in a way that would put your fellow bounty hunters in danger, which was maybe not your intent.
You know, I'll just roll with the one. Let's see what I get.
Okay.
I got a 4.
All right. So you do hide successfully. What is a complication of that, though? I think I... I know a complication, which is that I think when you run to hide, you catch the attention of the miners grappling Clarence. But in the, I think the way that manifests is like you run for a hiding space, you nearly run into that group and dart to find somewhere to hide, which you successfully do, but Clarence, as the miners release you, the first thing you see is another figure running towards you out of the darkness and suddenly stopping in their tracks, maybe 10 paces in front of you. How do you react?
I think that with the sudden distraction, Clarence takes out a rock pick from his pack and just swings at the closest miner. Or maybe, actually, you know what? Maybe he... Am I going to throw it at Max? Or am I going to attack a closer miner?
That's up to you.
I think I'm going to attack a miner so I can get free, and then I'm going to rush Max.
All right. Go ahead and give me a risk roll there, then.
Is this going to be determination again? I feel like determination might be overused.
Maybe.
It's a very broad term, is the thing.
I think it's true. I do think your life is on the line for this one way or another.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I think maybe that's one dark die. Unless you would like a devil's bargain.
Do you have one to offer?
Let me think about that. I do, which is that you can use the rock pick, but you will, in the process, lose it and not be able to use that weapon again. And speaking of which, Murray, remember how I mentioned earlier that I think as the devil's bargain for getting out of that ravine, you got a light die, but you lost something that would be valuable to you later? Yeah. I think this is the moment where you look down and realize that perhaps you loaded it hastily. Perhaps I don't know what kind of gun you have. Perhaps it's a hastily loaded revolver. Perhaps it's only a single-shot rifle where you need to load it with each shot, but you look down and realize you've only got one bullet left.
Oh. Well, this is one.
Somehow you only had 2 entering the camp. You've just expended one of them.
Bullshit. I guess that's not a secret tool we use for later, is it?
So, Clarence, would you like the Devil's
Do you
Bargain?
I kind of like the idea of keeping the rock pick, but it's only 1 die that I have, and I'm worried about that. Yeah, I'll use it.
All
2
right.
dice. 1 light, 1 dark.
Yes, indeed.
2 6s. Which means a ruin.
But in like a cool, sexy way.
In a cool, sexy way.
Ruin roll, but like cool and sexy.
Exactly.
Oh, do I make a... I make
No.
a ruin roll.
No, that counts as a ruin. So you increase to 4,
Okay, I thought so. Yeah.
but you do succeed. So, the rock pick becomes lodged in one of the miners' heads, and you break free and rush after Max, who disappears into the smoke. But you find yourself running headlong towards another figure who looks suspiciously like Marie.
I think Clarence stops to catch his breath for a moment after wrestling with a bunch of miners, and also to make sure that this is Marie. And then says, Marie, did you shoot me?
I mean, I wasn't aiming for you. But I guess.
Let's go find Max.
Yeah, okay.
Free from the thickest of the smoke and the clutches of the miners, you have, for the first time, the 3 of you, a moment to catch your breath and survey your surroundings. Like the strikebreakers did to them, the specters have blocked off the only way out of the camp. The only way forward is deeper into the camp, and into the open mouth of the mine itself.
I guess we don't got a choice.
I guess for posterity's sake, Max, do you, after having evaded being grabbed, do you then reveal yourself to rejoin your companions? Or do you stay out of sight for the time being?
Oh yeah, I pop back out and reveal myself to them, hobbling back out with my broken leg.
Well then, one of you with a broken leg, one with a lawman's badge you don't seem to recall having before, and one concussed and freshly shot. You make your way to the entrance to the mine. At the entrance to the mine, a single horse is tied up, a bloody handprint on its rump. In the dust, drag marks the size of saddlebags lead down into the mine's depths. Tiny pebbles of gold lining the path where they spilled from the purloined stash. And near the steed's hoof, a crumpled piece of paper.
What's on the paper? I guess I pick it up and I look at it.
It's a wanted poster of Bantam's that predates the bank robbery that set you on his trail.
I also think that Clarence is going to take a moment just to dress his wound and then maybe pick up a few of the golden pebbles.
Clarence, go ahead and give me a risk roll to treat your wound while still clearing smoke from your lungs and with a ringing head.
Oh boy. Well, at least I have medicine.
It's true, you do.
I think I'm just going to take it as is unless you have a particularly interesting devil's bargain.
Oh, let's see. Not sure that I do. Oh, also, Marie, I needed to give you your condition name. Your condition name is Law Went Walking.
Oh boy. Do I get to know what that means?
Well, that's the law. That's the lawman's badge you found
Right.
pinned to the inside of your clothes, and the memory that accompanied it.
Alright. I'm just going to roll the one light.
All right.
3.
That is a 3. You're not fully able to treat it. This is something that will require additional treatment once this is all done and dusted.
It'll hold for now.
And it gets worse. As you look around, unable to recognize your compatriots' faces, you're increasingly convinced that you've fallen in among strangers who, for some reason, want you to believe they're the bounty hunters you left town with. Watch them closely.
My hand starts to hover over my holster more often than not.
From the entrance of the mine comes a voice. "You the law?" it shouts, bouncing off the walls and wooden supports of the entrance. "Ah, you sure are terrible at sneaking up on folks. If you think I'm alone, best think again. I got bullets for all y'all, and hell ain't even half full." Somewhere in there, in the dark, is Bantam, likely wounded, cornered, sitting on a stolen fortune and worth another in his own right. But he knows you're coming. Do you think he's bluffing about not being alone?
Is it something... You know what? Being a gambler, I've heard a few bluffs in my time. And I think he's alone in there.
Who enters the mine first, allowing themselves to set a full silhouette in the doorway? An easy target.
The Hidden Hawks.
Hmm.
Would I be able to do a reduction roll? Put someone into the doorway?
I would say with that player's consent, absolutely.
Okay, who wants to get pushed into the door?
It depends on whether or not you want to get shot.
Hmm.
Because you do still have to make that roll to actually reduce it.
That's true.
Maybe you guide someone into taking the lead. If that roll fails, your feint has been seen through.
Okay.
Who do
I'd
you
be
think?
willing to get guided as well if you're willing to try.
Alright, I'm gonna try and get Max into the doorway.
All right, let's see. One light die, please.
Okay. That's a 5?
is a 5. If you roll less than your current ruin, your betrayal goes unnoticed and you remove 1 ruin. If you rolled equal to or higher, you decide whether or not to remove 1 ruin. If you do, someone notices the attempted betrayal. So you can still remove 1 ruin. But Max will be aware that you are... Max will see right through your ruse.
No, for the time being, I think I'll keep the ruin.
Okay.
Marie, the condition you acquired, it gets worse.
Oh boy.
You remember someone in handcuffs as fire approached, a fallen burning ceiling beam between you. You remember choosing not to vault the beam. You're going to let someone down when it counts.
It's ominous.
So, who will voluntarily take the lead?
Despite the fact that I have a broken leg, I think I'm gonna try it.
Yeah. Alright. Let's go for it.
Who guards against the shambling, burning men to the rear and their resurrected rage?
Well, I would, but I only got 1 bullet.
I shouldn't have left my rock pick behind. I mean, I'm also shot and concussed and face blind, so... I have an idea.
Okay.
What if I cave it in behind us?
I don't see how that's gonna help.
Well, they won't be able to get at us.
But we won't be able to leave either.
Not without digging out, but neither will bent them.
I don't know.
It is
It's a
an
terrible
option.
idea. It's a terrible, desperate idea to protect us from the rear.
Do you want to do it?
If nobody else is going to protect us from the miners, guess I could try shooting a few shots at them, but I don't know how much that is going to do.
Yeah. I object, but I'm not in really any good way of stopping it if he does go through with it.
Well, Clarence, would you like to collapse the mine behind the 3 of you?
I think I take a medic that some miner left behind, and I take it to support beam a couple times. See if I can't dislodge something.
Well, that does sound like it would be a risk roll for geology. Thinking if I have a devil's bargain to offer you on that one.
There are a couple of doozies I could think of.
Ooh. Got one you're particularly fond of?
I want to hear yours first.
I will offer you a devil's bargain of your condition rapidly worsens between the fate, whatever condition affected you and the acceleration of the from the concussion. People's voices will become increasingly indistinguishable as well.
I think I'm gonna take that, actually.
That will be 2 light dice then.
2 light dice.
Local man gets
Brilliant,
incredibly
too.
fucked up.
3 and a 2. I think you are unsuccessful. You're able to... There's a partial collapse. It's enough to get you some space from the miners. But you can't linger here for long. Their encroaching presence means that you will need to move forwards quickly towards Bantam's position. Worse yet, you now find the voices of your companions difficult to distinguish from each other. Which brings us to the end of Ring 4. At long last, to Ring 5.
Exciting.
Pick your way down through the dark towards the sole source of light in the mine shaft. There, leaning against a wall near a guttering lantern, Bantam holds his side, his shirt slick with blood, sticking his shirt to his skin and dripping to the floor. The room smells of gun smoke and death. Crumpled bodies litter the floor, some with the sneering faces of now former members of Bantam's gang, their betrayal interrupted. Some with the starving features of men of the law who got here ahead of you. Twisted limbs, perhaps, pointing the way to your own grim future. Bantam shivers, but his gun hand is steady, supported by a dark shadow behind him that whispers in his ears, clasps his hand, and guides his aim. Stories are true. The covenant Bantam forged at the crossroads. A formless devil mimicking human shape keeps Bantam upright, even as his life drains away. Do you see an approach? Or do you hesitate?
I hesitate.
Clarence lags behind both in movements and in positioning. He draws his gun.
Clarence, the faces of the three in the mine with you are indistinct, and when they speak, their voices are difficult to distinguish, but there is no mistaking the face of the figure that holds Bantam upright. You can see it crisp and clear as day. And you realize something. Bantam is dying. Slowly, but inevitably. Creature bound to him knows it. You know it. And in this underground space, and in this moment where so many futures end while others blossom, a new pact can begin.
If there's no movement for a little while, I think Clarence will do something, but he's, like I said, lagging behind in action and thought. So there's time to act before he does something.
So the shadow's like a physical thing we can all see, right?
It's a thing you can all see. It sort of defies description. To call it physical would not be quite right, but to call it a trick of the eye would not either. It is there, and its hand guides Bantams.
So you want to talk to it? Because it's basically the only thing I have is to use charm.
You certainly could. You could talk to anybody in this mine shaft.
That's true. Be like, I know this ain't no crossroads, but I hear you the deal making time.
Behind
You know
Bant.
what?
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's like, we both know this man's dying. And you seem to need him. You need a body as much as the body needs you.
Bantam raises his gun, hand steady, pointed directly at you, and says, "Now, hand steadier than his voice. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you take one more step and it'll be the last one you take." But even as he speaks, you see a smile behind Bantam's head in the shadows. And a voice whispers over your shoulder. Bantam dies, a power vacuum will be left in his wake. Think of it. Resurrection. Endlessly renewing ripe fruit. Plucked again and again by a new gun. A new bandit leader who none can outdraw. Clarence. Clarence. There's more money here than Bantam's bounty pays. Enough to start a new life on your own. No need to ever go back or haul Bantam anywhere. There is as much blood-stained bank money here as you could carry. Gold to fill every pocket. Max. You set out looking to find a town where no one knows you or what you've done. Look around you. Everyone has always thought of you as the good guy, in spite of everything. Look at your companions. The shadow offering its power to anyone who will take it. And all of them hesitating.
You know,
You could take it too.
Angel was gonna betray the other two eventually anyway. Just
Max.
because it's her way.
It can help you, but it will only help one. Will you
Yeah.
say yes first?
It could help me, and I know there's money on one of our heads. Say, Shadow. Whatever you are.
You feel it listening.
You want one of us, right?
You need only say yes, but you need say yes first.
I feel like we all wanted to say yes. Is that something we could like roll for?
I think there are ways to roll like against each other, but also it would feel
There
kind
are,
of funny
yeah.
just
Right.
to roll to see who says yes the fastest.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think Clarence wants to do something that doesn't say yes, actually.
Ooh.
Oh.
Well then.
I think Clarence wants to shoot somebody.
Ooh.
He doesn't know who he's going to shoot.
Oh.
He's going to just say, "Where's my locket? I need to see my sister's face." And then he's going to shoot somebody. And I think I want to roll for that, to see who I shoot.
Before you take the shot, I do want to hear what Max and Marie are thinking of doing.
Well, I'm a bit of a rough spot. Because I only have one bullet. So really, the only tactical move here would be to shoot someone else and try and grab their gun, that's like a lot to do without getting retaliation in between. So I'd probably just try and shoot Bantam.
I will say, your only option isn't to shoot here. You could, well, you know what? Get weird with it. Think about how is this event going to be told in half-whispered tales in the dark corners of saloons? What impossible deed did you perform down here that won you the day?
Could I use Gila's Monster's Gift to do like an intimidation towards Max? So that he won't take the deal with the devil?
Thinking about how that would work, because that would kind of
Yeah.
come out to a contest roll. I mean,
It would, yeah. I keep going back towards that. I'm sorry.
I mean, the thing I'm thinking is I want to hear, like, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, next.
I mean, it's the rule in the game. Like
Yeah.
we can do a contest roll.
Part of me
Yeah.
is kind of thinking, like, what if we did a 3-way contest roll?
That would be fun,
That would be fun.
especially if there's a
I was
tie.
gonna say Max is definitely thinking about drawing and trying to shoot at least Marie.
Oh, cool. Everybody just gang up on Marie. The
I don't-
actual villain of the story.
Yeah.
I've been getting more and more disoriented. I am glad to shoot anybody at this point.
Clarence, do you still want to toss a coin to see who you shoot?
Yes, I do. I am fine
Alright.
with doing it at the same time that other people are shooting, though.
Oh, absolutely. But we can do that coin toss to see who it is first, if you want.
Hell yeah.
Wouldn't that be between 3, since there's 3 figures?
Ah, that's a good point.
Yes.
Sorry, I was just
It is-
thinking
it
about
is
everyone's
between-
backstabbing
It
each
is
other.
between
yeah.
3. Who wants
Uh,
to be 1 and 2?
All
Who
right.
wants to be 3
I'll
and
be
4?
2. Well, you'd be rolling like a 3-sided die. It's like either me.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I guess it could.
Or
I guess it could
the-
be 1d3. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Max and Marie call out 1 or 2, 1, 2, or 3.
2.
1.
Roll them bones.
3.
Hey!
It's a 3. All right. Well, because everyone is acting for it, if I am not mistaken, everyone is acting for the Shadow's favor, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's set up a 3-way contest roll. The first time I've ever done a contest roll in Trophy Dark, and we're doing a Mexican standoff.
Let's go.
So, treasure hunters act against each other, compete, or want to inflict harm on each other. First agree what's at stake. And I think what's at stake is, no matter how many bullets you have in your gun, no matter how good your aim is, if you strike true, you win the Shadow's favor. Take 1 light die if your occupation or background gives you an advantage. You only get 1 light die even if multiple skills would apply. 1 light die for each mark of ruin you currently have. And take 1 dark die if the contest is inherently dangerous. I think the contest is inherently dangerous.
Okay. I'm
And
not sure. Oh, sorry. Continue.
take as many additional dark dice as you are willing to risk. With the stakes being any dice that come up as 6. Count any dice that come up 6. In the case of a tie, count 5s, then 4s, and so on, until a winner is determined. So I guess you are rolling for the most 6s. And for each dark die that comes up as 1, mark 1 ruin, then work with the GM to define a condition describing how the forest changes you. When you mark your last ruin, you are lost. So, let's gather dice.
Okay.
That was 1 light die for every mark of ruin.
Yes, 1 light die for every mark of ruin,
So
and
that's
1
4 for me.
and 1 light die if you have an occupation or background that you feel gives you an advantage here.
Termination.
I'll take it.
Spirit medium to be able to communicate with this otherworldly being.
I will take that.
Is that a light or a dark?
That's a light.
It's light.
Okay, so I got 6
Uh,
light.
Loneliness? I'm acting on my own.
Sure. I like it. Let's go for it. You are turning on your companions who've been with you through these last few days.
Alright, I need a dark die because it's inherently dangerous.
Yep, everybody take 1 dark die because it's inherently
yeah.
dangerous. And then add as many dark dice as you're willing to risk.
And you gain 1 ruin for every 1 you roll for those.
For every 1 that you roll on a dark die, you gain 1 ruin.
I'm taking 4 to make 5 total. So 5 and 5, 10d6.
Holy smokes. Alright. What's everyone else's dice pool look like?
I'm gonna do just the 6 light and 1 dark.
Alright. And Max?
I am taking 2 more dark dice, so that's a total of 8 dice. 3 dark and 5 light? Yeah, 5 light.
In that dim light of the mine shaft, a shadow over every shoulder, you all place your hands on your guns, and you draw.
Damn it.
Theo, we should probably establish which ones are light, which ones are dark.
Yes, the first 5 are light.
Got it.
Oh wait, those are all ordered by. Oh no.
Oh no, that does create a problem. Oh, you could do separate rolls for your light and your dark.
Yes, let me do that.
So let's, yeah, everyone using the dice bot, do 2 rolls, 1 for your light dice, 1 for your dark
Yep.
dice.
Oh, got it. Yes.
Oh, cool. You okay over there?
So we have rolls for Clarence and Marie. Max is rolling.
Alright, I got all my dice. Let's see. Didn't get any ones on my dark dice, at least.
That's good.
Time to start counting 6s and 1s.
Alright, I got 2 6s.
I got 2 6s.
I have a 1 6.
Well,
1.
but was that one was a light die, so that I don't think that counts towards your ruin. Did anybody roll did anyone roll a 1 on their dark dice? I don't think so.
Nope.
Nope.
So between Clarence and Max, we now count 5s as well.
2 5s.
I got 1 5.
Clarence, 4 shots ring out in the darkness, but 1 rings louder and truer than the others. Phantom falls dead to the ground. Space behind him empty. You look down. Your head suddenly clearer, your hand steady. You see at Marie's feet the locket that you lost.
Marie. My locket, please.
Oh wait, did I get shot? Or was it on the Panther got shot?
And then I take the locket.
Oh yeah, actually, sorry, let's reframe that a bit. Clarence, you find your condition cleared, and your hand steadier. And you see at Marie's feet the locket you thought lost. Marie, you find yourself on the ground. The air around you a little dimmer. Lying on the ground next to your hand is the locket you gambled back in town. A few drops of your own blood staining it.
Marie, would you please hand me my locket back?
Marie, she's not gonna get out of this alive either way. Especially since she seems to have not gotten the Shadow's favor. Decides to take her shot anyway. So now come get it yourself and tries to fire it with Clarence.
Are you firing back at Clarence?
Yeah. Should I like roll something for that, or do I just assume that I die because he's got Satan on his side?
Well, no. Let's play it out. But give me, if you please, give me a risk roll for that.
Okay.
Rather than a contest roll.
Right.
The result is a 2. I'll tell you what. Clarence, when Marie raises her gun, do you raise yours in return?
No.
Okay. Well, Marie, I think you take your shot, but regardless of whether or not it hits. Actually, how does this work? I think your shot just goes wide. There's the pang of a bullet ricochet in the dark. Before we go on, Max, how do you react to all this? Presence at your shoulder is gone. You feel a loneliness you didn't know you could experience.
Well, the man I came here for is dead. One of my companions that I saw was wanted too. Looks to be dying too. I don't seem to have any holes in me. At least I don't think I do.
Nope. All your blood and guts still inside where they're supposed to be.
Guess I just walk over to Bantam. Well, hobble over to Bantam on my broken leg, but see if Clarence does anything about that.
Clarence, one of your companions, is inspecting Bantam's now lifeless body, and the other lies bleeding on the ground in front of you.
Max, are you thinking of taking this bounty for yourself?
Well, I don't seem to have whatever Bantam had.
No. No, you do not.
So I don't think I can take it for myself, at the very least, but I figured I'd make sure the bastard's dead.
The bounty. The reason we're here. You weren't thinking of taking it all by yourself, though. Right, Max?
Are you asking me if I thought of it, or if I was going to?
I'm saying
Sure, I
that it's
thought about it, but
my bullet that killed the man. Surely the bounty is mine.
not ours, yours.
I am sorry about your leg, but I think that I have sacrificed a little bit more to get here.
What about her?
She should have hit me the first time she shot at me. In the head.
Fair enough.
Isn't that right, Marie?
He just spits at him.
Marie and Max, give me a ruin roll, as you now see that there are still 4 of you in this mine shaft. That Clarence no longer walks alone.
I got it.
I got a 1.
No last minute ruin increases.
Now, murder isn't in my nature. I am a healing man. You can leave, Max, if you want. I'm afraid you won't be so lucky, Marie.
Well, now, if I leave, can I take her?
Marie?
Yeah.
I don't know if her wounds will sustain her.
That don't matter to me.
Is your heart really that kind?
Kind? What do you mean, kind?
To save her.
Who said anything about saving her?
Ooh, I forgot about the bounty there for 2 seconds.
Now, what does that mean, Max? Have you been untruthful with me?
Now,
Ha!
her face on it.
Now, you never mentioned that.
Didn't come up.
Then I guess that's 2 bounties I can claim.
Oh shit.
Now, if you want to be a good sport, you could help me carry the bodies, and I could give you a portion of the reward. Like I said, murder isn't in my nature.
I'm not sure how much your nature matters anymore, my friend. That thing behind you.
Don't you worry about that. They're gonna love me back in Detroit.
God. I'm trying. What Max would do here?
How white is that hat, really?
I have a proposition. In lieu of, perhaps, another role, I would like to propose that maybe we end this as all good westerns end. What do they say happened in that cave? Back in Resurrection, back in the town you started from. How many people did they say walked out?
Alive, you mean?
Alive.
My vote is for 2. But all I know is that I'm not the angel ain't making it out alive.
I think they say only one man left that cave alive. And that man was Max Ogden, who saw the birth of a new devil. Devil who raised Nag's head. A devil who spilled blood on the streets of Detroit. Brought back the wild of the West with him. Couldn't give it up.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Ah,
Max, you turn in either of the bounties?
Well, it sounds like I'm not going to be the one who gets to turn them in.
you get a portion.
Yeah. I'll take my portion, I guess.
What stories did they tell about Max Ogden and the party that set out to hunt Henry Bantam?
Well, I'm the only one that walked out alive. At least, still myself. More or less.
That alone is a tale worth telling, if you ask me. Thus concludes the tale of Marie Angel, a grifter who some say met a fitting end at the bottom of a gold mine. Max Ogden, the white hat, the knight in shining armor, sole survivor, a four-way shootout, the notorious outlaw Henry Bantam. And the end of the tale of the prospector and disgraced apothecarist Clarence Rottenberg, who they say isn't dead. They say that in his place walks a man with eyes in the back of his head, uncanny luck, fastest hand and draw, steadiest aim. But it is the West. They say a lot of things. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Devil Aim for Me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good game.
How's
Yeah, that was fun.
how's everyone doing? How's everyone feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Okay.
I'm happy with how Clarence shaped up.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think with that, I think for the stream at least we can call it an evening. Give me 1 second, because I just realized I for some reason don't have a Discord capture on the ending screen. Whoops. Literally building the plane as we fly, folks. It's all fine. But yeah, that is Devil Aim for Me by Michael Van Vleet, our very own signal station in chat. And hey, if you watch this stream, hey, thanks for tuning in. It's a pleasure having you here. And if you would like to check this incursion out for yourself, you find a link to it, to the itch page, right there in the chat.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Last incursion.
Yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you three for joining me to play this. If y'all don't mind staying on the line just a few more minutes, we can... I'd like to do a little, just quick, debrief and wind down after a game.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I'll go ahead and call the stream there. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
No schedule for future stuff. I guess before we go anywhere, everyone on the chat, do you have anything y'all want to plug?
Nothing that I can think of.
I mean, I do stream once in a very long while. I've been wanting to get back to it recently, so if you would like to follow me, you can feel free to.
I'm gonna do videos on TikTok. Just Alley Puppy Butt on there.
I know, I think sometime in the future I'll be guesting on a different stream, but I'm not sure on the exact days for that yet.
Ooh. Well, you are welcome to plug it, nevertheless.
I'll be on a Reed's stream over at twitch.tv/Reedrill for Killer 7.
Hell yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. And in fact, for all of you in the chat, I see that Reed is actually streaming Typing of the Dead.
Mhm.
Excellent. So for everyone in
It's a
chat,
very Reed game.
yeah, for everyone in chat, I think I will rage on over there. So say hi to Reed,
Mhm.
and hey, thank y'all for tuning in. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.